things. And number one is making sure that somehow there's a way we can see when because we did some tests over in early December, making sure we can see which legislators are actually present when you're testifying in front of a committee. That's important to know. And also who's on the floor. So, kind of finding some way of using the Zoom functions and TVW to give the public that sort of transparency, at least to know who is there and who is participating. And I think the other thing is providing more definitive times for hearings, for when you're coming in to testify. Because I know one of the concerns I have is that, it's great. One of the things I love about this is we are hopefully going to be able to enhance testimony at the Capitol with more real people who have stories. But the flip side is there could be thousands of people signing up for a hearing and you won't know when you're going to testify. It'll be even worse than when we're in person. So we're a little concerned about how that works and how they're going to fit in, how they're going to make those decisions. So there's a lot of things I think that'll make this session, every session is unique. This session is going to be particularly unique as I think the legislature itself tries to figure out how it's going to do its work. You won't have all the legislators there. Only a few will be there, most of the leadership. They're going to bring the House in to some votes, in-person votes at St. Martin's, I believe it is. They're going to go there to the pavilion, and they're going to bring them in groups at a time to vote on procedural things that they have to do in order to be remote. The Senate's going to do something similar in their chamber. They have only 49 members to the House's 98. So you've got all these little things that have to happen, which I think mean this session might start off really slow. We're seeing that there's not as many bills being introduced, but we are still seeing a lot of bills being introduced. The other dynamic out there is that you have these governor's orders during the emergency declaration that a lot of them end once the legislature goes into session. So there's going to be some debates on those types of orders as well, and how certain things proceed, because he's going to have legislative agreement. The legislature will need to pass it. So it's going to be very, very interesting. I would be patient, but also question and be demanding of information. That is, I think, going to be really important for everyone, is to demand information. Make sure voices are heard, that some voices can't be drowned out by others because some are more tech savvy. I think there's a lot of concerns about how this is going to work. I'm hoping going forward, I just as a lobbyist, I can see some downsides. We're losing that sort of dynamic conversation discussions that you have in a hallway, or just the ability to catch somebody and say, hey, this is happening. This is happening. How do we change that? How do we make this work? But at the same time, once again, bringing in more people from, who really are impacted to be in front of the legislature. Actually, I'm going to start carrying my iPad at all times when I'm back in person, and I'm going to Zoom people in with me in meetings. I mean, now that we have that kind of, the legislature is getting used to that, it's great, I think, for public participation. It's just, how do you manage that? We're also concerned about what happens just sort of physically at the Capitol building. We have heard there are going to be militias trying to break in and that type of thing. So all of us who love the process are really concerned about sort of what happens for the people who want to make a difference in the process that perhaps isn't in the way that those of us who are traditional, participants in the democratic process want to make sure that it happens. So we're a little worried about that, but I feel pretty good about it. So after that, going into it, and we're still going to see movement on big issues. So I think for the business community and for South Sound Chamber, the first thing is, of course, COVID recovery, business, what's happening out there with got to get our hospitality industry back up and running, and then watch what happens with the recession. And I think that starts probably with what's going on with our unemployment insurance trust fund. The trust fund has dipped below 2 billion in reserves, which means that I'm sure you've all as businesses, I got my unemployment insurance tax rate and it went from 1% to 2%. I'm sure you're all seeing the same thing. And if you have a number of employees, your denominator is huge, and that can be devastating to a lot of small and mid-sized businesses. So really concerned about what happens there. Unlike a traditional recession, the unemployment insurance system is meant to move up and down with these tax rates. It feeds itself, it funds itself through employer contributions. And it was designed to have that social tax to try and offset recession impacts. And we've had our taxes be up this high before. The difference here is it's the suddenness, the number of businesses that aren't able to even be open, and the fact that these were government mandated closures and the businesses had no opportunity to adjust their hiring practices and things like that to adapt to this, to avoid those tax increases. So we're trying to look, working with the governor's office and others. There's an unemployment insurance advisory committee looking at this, but I think the big thing is we're starting to wonder in the business community, there's some suggestions to cap the social tax, which would be great. Try to maybe even look at doing some, kind of instead of looking back 4 years to determine experience rate, look back 5 or 6. So trying to smooth some things out for a period of time. But we're also seeing the governor's bill and others have benefit increases in them. And we just think at this point, this is not the time to try and do any benefit increases in this system. So that's going to be an issue going forward, and something that the business community is very highly focused on. The other thing is going to be, of course, as they look to fund programs, you've got K through 12 education and the governor's budget. You've got enrollments are down. So there's this attempt to say, oh, we've got savings, and then to try and then what do you do in the following year when you don't really know what enrollments are going to look like? So you have problems in not just the operating side, but also the transportation side of the K-12 budget. And I think there's going to be some significant dynamics in play there, trying to look at haven't spent as much money in K-12 ed, or they haven't had the enrollments, but what are the costs, especially if you're going to ramp back up in a COVID environment where you have all these COVID protections. Those of you who own businesses and are paying to keep your business open under the COVID restrictions know just how expensive that is. And it's the same for schools. So I think there's going to be some balance and dynamics that need to occur in that budget discussion, and considering the size of that budget, it is over half of the state budget. That is going to be a significant early discussion that needs to occur so that school districts can know what their expectations are. I think also in the other budget side, there's, you've got all the other budget things. We've got, I believe it's still about a $4.5 billion hole that needs to be filled. And you see tax discussions. I swear every day a new tax comes out. We now have a digital advertising tax that's been proposed. The payroll head tax, there's a bill out there that do something similar to what Seattle has. There is there's going to be various income tax proposals, various increases in other types of taxes. But of course, the big one, and the one that I've heard Senate and House leadership both say probably has the most ability to pass, it's been the most worked, is the capital gains tax, which of course we don't have an income tax in that state, and capital gains tax is an income tax type of tax. So it's kind of interesting to see how they're going to do that. And also a lot of concern in the business community about how that is applied, particularly in the small and mid-sized business sectors who are suffering right now, but who are also, a lot of them are at retirement age, and that is their retirement. And so there's a lot of concern about the impact on the economy there. So kind of moving from that budget and spending, it's gonna be, I can't see how budget and spending doesn't take up most of the time in this session, but they're of course going to also, there's big discussions in housing, and of course that impacts the budget. Big discussions in broadband, and how do you adequately fund not just broadband to major sectors, but broadband out to people's houses. Because one thing we have discovered, if you're going to have people working at home or kids going to school at home, you got to have better broadband access out there. The transportation sector, even though 976 was overturned, there's still going to be pressure to look at license tab fees, and see if they can't vehicle license taxes and or excise taxes, and bring them down. There's other projects that need to be spent. There's still a deficit in that arena because COVID has resulted in fewer people driving. There's less gas tax revenue than ever before. And so, and you have existing projects such as our Gateway project, Puget Sound Gateway, and the 167 that need to be continued and funded. And then also looking at what's happening with the partnerships in that, both at the federal and local level from a funding perspective. So that's a big issue. And then finally, I think there's a lot. Another big, I think, issue that's going to be discussed this year is in the environmental arena. And that's going to be around you've got a couple different things in play. One is the low carbon fuel tax, which I think that probably is going to have the most significant discussion and the most potential for getting somewhere this session, just because it was worked through before. I think there's a lot more looking at it as possible funding mechanisms. But the other thing you're going to see out there is the idea of a carbon tax. And there have been proposals already put out of looking at how can you do the carbon tax in conjunction with a low carbon fuel tax and actually provide funds to the budgets through a carbon tax. And of course, then if it does sort of get traction, the discussion will be where do those carbon tax dollars go? Or if they're on transportation, should they go to transportation? And that's where the South Sumner Chamber feels that should be, is then you use that to backfill transportation if you're going to do it. But once again, in conjunction with all of the other tax revenue, what do you do there? I think the other big thing you're going to see in environmental, we have seen the first draft of the Clean Buildings, Healthy Homes. And that is a fairly large proposal that moves us more quickly towards full electrification of our housing and our buildings. A lot of concerns there because, in eliminating natural gas, you eliminate backups. Can the electrical grid handle this? What is the cost of moving this direction? How does this work in Eastern Washington? So many questions, big controversial issue that needs a lot of discussion. And I guess there's a lot of question about whether or not there's a real attempt to do some of these things this year, or if this is just throwing this out there to have the discussion this year, expecting it to actually happen next year. I know there's legislators on, so they may know more about this than me. But I think, so that's where we're going. But I can't imagine this session will be much, how the discussions are going to go much beyond the budget issues. And of course, the other big one out there is police reform. And of course, the equity discussions that are going to be happening as well in the legislature, and that are going to probably, those equity discussions, some will happen on their own, but I think a lot of them are going to be happening in conjunction with a lot of these other proposals. So I'll take questions. I'm sure there's something I haven't brought up. Mm-hmm. Waiting for someone to say you were muted the entire time.
Yeah. Well, kind of pertinent to our area, and again, maybe not rising up to the level of importance as some of what we're going to have to deal with in these times, but our data center sort of work, and also the restrictive scheduling.
Restrictive scheduling, I haven't heard anything about that right now. And I think because it's really hard, that was really for the hospitality industry. In a lot of ways, it was restaurants and grocery stores. Grocery stores are incredibly stressed right now. I think they're the only ones hiring. Well, I think construction might be doing okay, but it's really not getting a lot of discussion right now, and not a lot of play, because people are understanding that we're in a recession. It's about getting jobs right now. So as far as the data center, I honestly don't have any updates. Hopefully maybe Senator Zeiger does have some updates on what's happening with the data center discussions. Once again, to the extent that there are a lot of discussions about permitting and infrastructure investments, particularly during recession times, that type of thing, it may have a little bit more play. It would depend on how much money is expected from the budget. So
actually, Senator Gildon, I believe, is going to run that bill this session.
Good. Okay. We'll work on that with you.
Great. Any questions for Carolyn? I appreciate the overview.
No questions?
No, wow, pretty thorough there.
Really? There isn't an issue out there that you care about that I didn't touch on? Okay,
I'll ask one. I appreciate your view of how much D on R weirdness is there at the state level compared to the federal level.
Oh, probably not as much compared to the federal level. Things are a little different. We don't have, sorry, Senator Gildon, Senator Zeiger, Cindy, Representative Jacobson, because it's full Democratic control. So you don't have a lot of that, one house can block, the other one can't. That puts pressure and then feeds everybody's ire. But the reality is, I think we're a little more reasonable at the state level. There's a little bit more ability, I think, to talk, not only for the legislators to talk to each other in a more familiar environment and more familiar way. But also I think the public feels a little more connected and feels like they can call up their legislator, whoever they are, but don't think it's not there. And on some of these big issues, particularly environmental issues, trust me, it may not be the legislators themselves, but outside forces, labor issues and environmental issues will be trying to feed that D versus R fight. And that is where we get into trouble. It's always outside forces the extremes trying to feed the fight. And I think that's what the concern about like this militia takeover of the Capitol and what that Olympia has been going through a little mini war pretty much every weekend here with between the supposed Antifas and the supposed, Proud Boy, all these, which I think are just pretty much probably the same people just picking a side and deciding they want to fight because they have nothing else to do. They need jobs. So.
Okay, thanks.
Representative,
Can I ask a question, Tara?
yeah, absolutely.
Hi, Carolyn. Thank you for your information that you've shared. I had seen a communication from Governor Inslee directing the executive branch as they do their budgets to place a focus on equity and dismantle, quote, the systemic racism and disparities in the system. Practically speaking, do you have insight on what that means exactly?
I think a little bit of it is, I don't have a lot of insight into it. I know that what I've seen in regulatory discussions and in legislative discussions is more a look at, really making sure you have a lens of what does this mean for your communities of color when you're doing this, so that it's not necessarily it may not result in anything different being done, but it's more of a make sure you're looking at this. Particularly, I think what we've seen more is more pressure in the environmental side of it to look at how are environmental decisions done, particularly air quality, water quality, and where are these communities located in the state and what are the decisions being made. And then healthcare, I saw there's a healthcare discussion and healthcare bill. And I think for the agencies, they've got, there's an environmental justice kind of law that is supposed to be like provide a lens, and there's a whole big PowerPoint presentation and how it works, but it's basically looking at impacts and trying to make those decisions with those impacts in mind. So that's kind of what they're looking at, is making sure you don't ignore that and don't ignore those voices. The tribes are very involved in this. I know that the African American community is very involved in these discussions. Probably something that needs to happen. And I think, as with all legislation, the devil's in the details, and the more people are talking and discussing about impacts on what happens, and when you push in this side, and what law is always a sausage making, you push in one side, pops out the other, push in this side, pops out there. Having that sort of broader lens to look at everything, I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's going to be just how that kind of moves forward and what type of policies and how the policy discussions go.
Thank you.
I'd like to direct some attention here to Representative Kelly Chambers. I know she's got to pop out to an appointment real quick, but always has something to add. So I'd like to give you that opportunity.
Okay. Hi, Tara. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you. And Happy New Year. Of course, I'm wearing black today and my dog wants to be extra cuddly, but so I'm trying to get to my appointment with less dog hair on me. But real quick, Carolyn mentioned swearing in at St. Martin's, and I just wanted to let everyone know that has changed as of yesterday afternoon. All those plans they've been working on for a couple of months have come apart, and we're moving back to the Capitol building for pomp and circumstance on Monday. And we're being told a couple different options for our swearing in. Get it done privately with a notary and bring in your paperwork, or we will do it remotely on Friday. So they're no longer going to do the in-person social distance at St. Martin's. And then, for Senators Gildon and Representative Jacobson and myself all have our new committee assignments. Previously I was on healthcare, the budget transportation budget committee, and commerce and gaming, and I have new assignments. So I'm now the ranking member on college and workforce development and assistant ranking on appropriations. So, and then I still will serve on commerce and gaming. So that means, you know, a whole new learning curve for me. So looking forward to that. But just, you know, in general, our, you know, priorities as a caucus are getting people back to work, helping businesses recover. We have several proposals for that. So just as always to our chamber members, if there are things you need me to know about in terms of how you operate your business, what sort of policy that we can help implement to help your business recover after this crazy, you know, last year, then I'm wanting to hear those ideas from you. But a couple of the proposals that are out there are suspending the B&O tax collection until April 1st, a $5,000 credit for businesses on their B&O liability, and like Carolyn mentioned it, figuring out ways to ease that impact on the unemployment insurance. You know, I'm a small business owner as well. I got my 2021 rate increase and that tripled. So that has a significant impact on our business and our ability to serve the people that we serve. So everybody's, and that's not the expected big impact on unemployment insurance. We would be expecting a bigger impact next year. So that's where we're at. And quickly, I'll take any questions. Otherwise, I'll move on. I got an appointment to get to.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we just stay with the state? So again, this is probably our third round of congratulations, but well due. So Senator Gildon, congratulations, like the new title, and so thrilled that the 25th was so victorious. So welcome, and I'd love to have any comments from you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you all so much. So I am the state's newest senator, just sworn in yesterday at 2 o'clock. I'm sorry, at 1 o'clock. And so just thankful to everybody who supported me, and all of the people who have met with me to, you know, educate me on all the different issues. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to keep it very short and just hit a couple of topics that have been mentioned so far. The data center bill is, I am still working that bill. And honestly, the kink in that particular bill, for those of you who don't know, this is the bill for the data center that we have here in the Puyallup area to help them with some of their tax burden, right? It's really expensive to replace all of the equipment that they have there. And so this is a bill to help with some of that particular tax burden. And the kink in the hose is for labor to do all of the work. Some people want a labor agreement to use only unionized labor, and others think that it should be open to private labor as well. So we're trying to work that out. I've got a meeting on Friday with some of the stakeholders, and we'll try to figure all of that out. We mentioned the D versus R kind of angst. One of the things that I've learned, I had staff do some research over the last couple of years, and of all of the bills that came out of Olympia, we had about 60% of those came out unanimously. About 30% of them came out with 1 or 2 no votes, and only 10% of the bills came out on party line votes. So that's very different than what you might have expected, you know, if you're looking at the other Washington. We spoke about the capital gains tax. So a little, Cindy, do you need, oh, okay. So she just left. We spoke a little bit about the capital gains tax, and I'll just add some flavor to that. This is the first step towards a goal that some folks in the legislature have of implementing a graduated income tax, okay? So, and this is not my speculation, this comes from public records of emails from Senator Peterson. So the problem that they have right now is the Supreme Court in the 30s, and I think again in the 50s, made a ruling that income is property, and as such, it triggers the uniformity clause in the Constitution that says property taxes must be uniform. So that prohibits the implementation of a graduated income tax. So their goal of this capital gains tax is they know that capital gains is income. It's pretty much accepted that capital gains is in fact income, but they want to pass the bill this year, get it in front of the Supreme Court because they know that there's going to be a lawsuit, and let the Supreme Court revisit their decision that income is property. And depending on the outcome of that, they could come back in the following year and implement the graduated income tax. So that's the long game, just for a little bit of flavor. Let's see, committee assignments. I have my committee assignments as well. I'm going to be the ranking member on the Human Services Reentry and Rehabilitation Committee, assistant ranking on Housing and Local Government. I'm also on the Ways and Means Committee and Rules Committee. And I was also elected by the members of my caucus to serve as the deputy floor leader for this upcoming session. So really excited. I wish that we could be in session and do all of this in person, but really excited. And just as Representative Chambers said, always glad to listen to members of this group, whether you have personal issues or business related issues. Just please always feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Senator Gildan, just completely out of curiosity, and pardon my naivety, how do committee assignments come about?
So it was really an interesting process. And there's a committee on committees, believe it or not. So there's a committee that selects who's on which committee. And actually I was a part of that this year. So each member gets to select their top 3 committees that they want, their preferences. And they get to say which one they want to be ranking on. And then the committee on committees meets, and we just go down the list and try to actually give everyone one of their top 2 or 3. We try to match up their preferences with the seats that are available. It was a very good process. I thought it was very fair, and pretty much everyone got a majority of the seats, the committee assignments that they requested, for the most part. Actually, and whenever I was in the military, I used to tell all of when I was training my lieutenants and captains, I would say, you've got to be bold and audacious. I do not want a timid leader in combat, right? Yeah. And so in keeping with that spirit, whenever they sent out the committee assignment preferences, they only had 3 choices. If you notice, I got on 4 committees.
Yeah.
So I just went ahead and added a little 4th line and said, I want to be on this committee too. And as luck would have it, I got it. So be bold and audacious.
Congratulations. Great. Well, why don't we go ahead and move over to former Senator Zeiger. You can, I guess, a great segue is any parting words from the Senate as you move in, and congratulations on your swearing in as a councilman. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And congratulations to Senator Gildan on being sworn in, and Representative Jacobson as well. And Representative Chambers will do a great job continuing in her role. And so we have a great team continuing on the work of the legislature in a particularly challenging time, as we've heard with just the challenges of having a mostly virtual session. And but I'm confident that our delegation is more than up to the task. So and I look forward to working with them from the county level. I'll have I'm sure plenty of things to ask for in my new role from our state delegation, things from local government issues to specific projects in our area, like the Canyon Road completion. And that's an issue that I'll be talking to this group at the chamber about, I'm sure, a lot in the coming months and years. So we got sworn in yesterday on the county council, and I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues there. We're going to have our my first county council meeting today, and invite all of you to be as active as you can, and at the county level. And I will put in the chat box my new contact information at the county, so that you all have that. And please feel free to reach out if you've got issues that you want to put on my radar as I'm getting up to speed on all of this.
Great. Betty Capistani, Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
We have barely been able to take a breath here as we take the corner. It's been busy at the county, and just thank you so much for all that you've done for our county, Pierce County Collective, but certainly I know you were a big part of that as well. And thank you for including us in so much of the distribution of the PPEs and really keeping the word out, letting us know right away. I was contacted recently by a reporter from the South Sound Business Journal that said the Puyallup area, although is the 29th largest city, we received number 15th for funds from SBA and other funding. And I think it really has to do with the great communication of our city and county and chamber. And just thank you so much for making that an easy pathway for us.
Well, it's our pleasure. And also I want to give a shout out and thank you to you and also others on the line, Meredith, Ryan, getting the word out to the business community. So with CARES, we ended up in economic stabilization, being able to give out $46.5 million to businesses in our community. And it went through a variety of different programs, from rent and mortgage assistance to loans that turned to grants, to backing for the agricultural industry, to restaurant assistance, and to a Main Street grant program. So, and we have a few other things, internships, college tuition, but we're just thrilled that we were able to meet our deadlines and expend the funds, and probably could expend more, but the budget's the budget, and you gotta work within that box. So, and I think the piece of hearing today, Carolyn did a great job with our presentation, but it gives me heart palpitations since while I may be at the county, my heart beats for business. And I'm really worried with all the taxations on business that's going to make us not business friendly environment. And currently we're hearing from all the big companies. So whether you take a Microsoft, they can go anywhere in the world. Now they figured out this remote piece. So that world may not be just moving down to Pierce County. That world may be going to Texas, somewhere else that doesn't have those kinds of taxes. So I think for Pierce County, we've all been really working hard to create better paying jobs, and to create more jobs here and have more business investment, and anything that happens. And we do get painted. I have a lot of counterparts across the country connected to chambers in the business world, and Pierce County does get painted underneath that Seattle brush. So I think our focus this coming year is to figure out how we can stay business competitive and friendly and increase jobs in all of our circles to benefit our community. So that's our big picture. And we're looking forward to working with a former Senator Zeiger that's now a county council member that has his first meeting today. And I believe also council committee assignments will happen today. So those are probably my big pieces. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I guess the bad news is I don't have money, but I'd be glad to help you however we can.
There we go. All right, well, thank you again, Betty. I think we'll go ahead and move over to the city of Puyallup. Hey, I am so happy to see Councilman Dean Johnson on the phone this morning. Nice to see you on this call. Happy New Year. And we've got Councilman Whitting and also Meredith Neal. And I think I saw Jeff Wilson. So, hey, I'll just turn it over to any of you for any Puyallup updates.
Let's see, council members Whitting and Johnson, would you guys like to go first, or would you like me to kind of do an overview of some of the other stuff we're working on?
You've probably got the best perspective on the most current stuff, Meredith, so take it away.
Okay, well, let's see. So first and foremost, just like I think most of the others around here, we had a mad dash to expend all of our CARES funds. We had to spend them all by November 30th of 2020. And the final tally is that we spent about 27% of our total CARES grants on business support. So that includes direct grants that went to the businesses. That was the lion's share of the monies that we got out into the community. There are also some other things, everything from the mask up window claims that we did in partnership with the Chamber and Main Street Association, some of the Shop Safely marketing campaigns that we worked on in the winter season, and then building the parklets. So As I'm sure people have noticed, with the governor's order being extended a few times for indoor dining, we've had this massive shift over to outdoor dining that we haven't seen on this scale before in Puyallup, and I think in a lot of the rest of the region. And so big shout out to Jeff Wilson and his team. I just got a report from them the other day. The permits for those parklets were averaging about 3.5 days from the time that somebody submits to the time that we're getting that permit out, which for a brand new program that each one of them is very different. You know, we have a lot of temporary tents that are becoming something a lot more than what we had originally envisioned as a temporary tent. And we're having to use a lot of flexibility in it. And it's just been really awesome to see all of those programs rolling out, and the fact that we are having restaurants who are taking advantage of them, and that we have a lot of outdoor dining options now in the city of Puyallup. We're hopeful to keep on helping all of our businesses, especially in the hospitality industry. It still is the hardest hit of our industries, along with construction. When you look at our sales tax numbers, both of them were at about 17% down from year over year in 2020 versus 2019. So those are definitely kind of our two top areas as we look at sectors in 2021 that we need to be working on. A few other things. So our downtown economic development plan, along with all of the COVID related things that we've been working on, we're still working our way through different initiatives from that plan. One of the things is that we launched the downtown parking study. We were able to complete phase 1 of that. Phase 2 is on hold for a little bit longer. Hopefully it will get rolling this spring, and that's our on-street parking count. We brought the consultant on in early March, and then COVID hit and people stopped parking. And so you couldn't really count cars that weren't there. We've been watching traffic numbers, and things have leveled out for traffic, and our downtown traffic on the Meridian corridor actually is pretty close to where it was before. So the hope is that we can kind of call some new level of normal, knowing that we'll have to do on-street counts again in a year or two once things level out some more, especially with the Sounder commuter train traffic. And then on the permitting and development feasibility side, we're still working really closely, all of us together, on all sorts of different initiatives for streamlining and simplifying the permitting process. Jeff and his team have been doing great work in identifying where there are areas of simplification. We're starting to work on some one-pagers, some informational sheets that'll be rolling out this year on some of the systems, so that people who aren't as familiar with the process have a place to start. And let's see, the last thing, so pretty shortly we're going to be putting out an RFP or an RFQ for a Meridian Streetscape Master Plan. So the city of Puyallup has a LIFT grant, which is a local infrastructure financing tool that is specifically geared towards doing infrastructure improvements that lead to jobs. So they're specifically for economic development. And so we're going to be bringing on a consultant to identify and prioritize infrastructure investments along Meridian that could help with economic development. So that'll be kind of an exciting thing to get underway. Once that consultant is on board, I'm sure a lot of you on this call will be tapped on to provide some input as we start looking at infrastructure improvements in our downtown core, and then perhaps on the way up into South Hill. And with that, I'll pass it over to Councilmember Whitting and Johnson if either one of them have anything they'd like to update you on.
Just a couple of peripheral things from my committee assignments and so forth. We've been negotiating a model franchise agreement with Comcast through the RCC, and that process is now complete. So the individual communities will now be carrying that forward with Comcast. The outdoor dining Meredith mentioned, we're extending that through October 31st and tweaking it a little bit. I serve on the PSRC Growth Management Policy Board, and so we've got Vision 2050 implementation. We're going to be establishing some growth targets there. So if anybody has any input on that, they can reach out to me. And we've got an interlocal agreement for regional emergency management planning and preparedness going with a bunch of the communities in Eastern Pierce County. So you got anything, Dean?
Just a couple of things. Yeah, thank you, Tara, for hosting this. Thanks for the invitation. I wanted to speak, although I'm a council member, I want to speak on a little bit different lens. Recently, some of you may be aware that I was offered the position to serve as the CEO for the Puyallup Food Bank. I've accepted that and started about a month ago. So I'm coming to you with that kind of lens right now to kind of comment, although it ties in certainly to the city of Puyallup and abroad. But as I was listening to Carolyn's, presentation this morning, I've always classified myself to be a very much positive thinking, glass is half full. But I think we also have to be soberly aware that this is not a breeze time that we're in, and quite frankly, with all the CARES funding, really debt coming in by the trillions coming into our country, we're being propped up. So there's a real sober awareness that should this CARES money start, drying up and unemployment start drying up, we're going to see some hurting individuals and families that we've never seen in quite a long time. So there's a forecasting that we have to be aware of. Give you an example in terms of the food bank. Last November, the month of November, we served just out our front door of clients, individuals, about 1,900 individuals. Fast forward 1 year to November of 2020. Over 4,200 individuals. That equates to about, I think the month of November, we handed out somewhere close to over 220 some thousand pounds of food. And that's with the CARES funding propping up. If these things start drying up, we could see an onslaught of need in our community of individuals and families and seniors that is unprecedented. So we're trying to forecast these perhaps needs coming up, recognizing that we have needs now, but it could be a very interesting time that we're coming into. That being said, the optimism and the encouragement that I can tell you and report from internally with this particular nonprofit, the stakeholders and the individuals within this region are unbelievably generous. We've never seen an outpouring of generosity in our 48-year history of individuals and companies stepping up to prepare and meet these needs and actually exceed these needs. So as much as the sobering forecast is going on, and perhaps even in heading forward, I can report to you that our stakeholders and our community individuals are extremely cognizant of that, and they're aware and they're extremely generous. So with that in mind, I'm very grateful to be involved with this region and see those who really care for others. And so I'm optimistic for the future, even though it may look a little interesting at times. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is Jeff. I just wanted to.
Okay.
Yes, I was just going to take a moment to add on a couple of things that Meredith had said that with the outdoor dining program, we worked really hard to streamline that process, and it was a number of different departments within the city, from the clerk's office to our building official, planning side, but also working with central peers to make that program really work so we could get out there and be responsive to the needs. We're continuing to work on our update to our permit software system, which we're looking to have come online this fall. But as we're looking to build towards that software system, we're also taking a look at our internal processes so that we can take this chance to see what we're doing now, how we can do it better, how we can simplify, streamline those processes as much as possible and simplify the processes. So we get used to doing that now, but we build it into our new systems. We're also, one of the projects that's coming in, there are there's some activities going on. I guess there's a big new project coming in, a big tenant improvement up in South Hill Mall for a portion of the Sears space there, which would be great for the South Hill Mall and help keep that area energized and re-energized. I think it's called Round One. Meredith knows a little bit more about it than I do, but I think it's similar like a Dave and Buster's, an arcade activity sort of center. So hopefully that'll provide a great reinvigoration of that space and area and bring more business and activity and people utilizing that area. And, with the council's support and help, we also took a temporary fee program that deferred some of our impact fees, our project impact fees, and we extended it out through June to get through the COVID crisis as we're monitoring what's happening in the industry out there and how it's impacting local developers and business leaders as they're working on projects. So we're extending that through the middle of June of this year, and then we'll keep evaluating depending on the circumstances throughout the year.
Great, thank you. Quick question. I had noticed with Sumner, which we'll get to in just a moment, that they have a planning commission seat or vacancy. And then when I popped over to the Puyallup site, it looked like there is one in Puyallup as well. Can either of you speak to that?
For the Puyallup side, and I'm new to the process here, so I know some of our council members might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand we have a selection committee that goes through and evaluates candidates. But I believe on our planning commission, we have actually 2 vacancies on the commission at this time. And, it's critical for us to make sure we have a full planning commission, to make sure we always have a quorum so we can conduct business. So, we'd really encourage anybody on here that may know citizens within our community to submit their applications so we can get them on board. I think our goal hopefully is to have them on board early this spring, late this winter, probably in the March timeframe. Again, I'm learning our processes here, but that's the goal right now. So your help in spreading the word for citizens in Puyallup to participate, we would certainly love that.
Great. Well, I would love to see folks from this group serving on that committee. So I hope we have a volunteer in the group here. All right. Well, thank you again. And Dean, Councilman Johnson, congratulations on your position. I was very excited to see you at the helm there, and just always doing such great work, and we'll continue to do that, I'm sure, under your leadership. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, Sumner, I've got Mayor Pugh there, Mayor Bill Pugh. Hello and Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you too. Congratulations on the electeds. I look at the 25th and the 31st districts, and it's a great team. And I'm really happy for Sumner and Puyallup to have all of you in your positions. And thank you for sharing your contact information. Councilmember Zeiger, it's going to take a while to get used to that one. And I don't know how you came up with the last 4 digits, 2222, but okay, we can all remember that one as your contact information at the
2nd council district.
Yeah, there you go. Good. Just a real quick question for Carolyn, and it has to do with state shared revenues and the whole streamlined sales tax issue. If there's any read that you have, I know a lot of the Valley cities with large warehouse distribution areas, Auburn, Sumner, Kent, Tukwila, that's been a high priority. I don't know if you have any read on, that particular issue, if you're still with us. And if not, we can always check back with you later on. Terry, you'd mentioned vacancies. I can let Ryan speak to the planning commission, but in terms of council vacancies, we had Councilmember Peterson that moved to the state of Wisconsin, and so we have an opening, and the applications are due by the 12th of January, and we'll see who all applies, and the council will go through the process of filling that position. So I'm going to shut up because it's been going on a long time here, and I'll turn it over to Ryan to see if there's anything you want to add, Ryan, in terms of issues, things that are happening, and the planning commission opening.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pugh. Yes, we have 1 vacancy presently on our planning commission, and we are hoping to fill that position first quarter of this year. And we have some word from at least 1 other planning commissioner who's ready to kind of hang it up because he's been at it for a number of years and he's got other personal commitments. So we will have another vacancy coming up shortly. One of our, internally, we've talked about the need to figure out how to reach out to others in our community and be inclusive in regards to who is kind of representing policy decisions on our planning commission. So we're consciously and intentionally trying to look for other avenues to reach out. But if you do know somebody who would be interested in being on our planning commission, please have them check out our website, contact me, apply. That'd be great. I've got a lot going on in Sumner. It's funny, Meredith in Puyallup, you guys go over similar things that we're working on, which I guess is okay. We have a lot of outdoor seating going on for restaurants, temporary tents popping up all over town, which is encouraging to see that they're, our businesses are being creative and trying to stay in business, which of course we want them to do. Regarding CARES Act funding, I think I mentioned this last time, but the city of Sumner was able to give out about $78,000 to restaurants directly. It was a $2,800 grant I know that's not going to solve everybody's problems, of course, but just trying to provide some relief there. And we also provided $34,000 in rent and mortgage assistance to the community as well. And then there were some other areas that we were able to contribute funds. We took on 200 gallons of hand sanitizer from the Department of Emergency Management, and we are trying to give that away. So if you know somebody that wants some, let us know. We are in the process of distributing that as well. On kind of the planning and development side, we are working with the City of Bonnie Lake on a affordable housing action plan. It's from a $150,000 grant from the state. And we have a draft plan on our website and looking for comments by January 15th. And it is really an action plan. So it sets up different ideas for how to make opportunity and promote affordable housing and provide incentives for affordable housing. And then once that's approved, then we'll go into an implementation stage to actually look at our zoning code and our plans and implement that. But that's up on our website right now. We're also in the midst of completing, hopefully in the next month or two, our 2020 comprehensive plan amendments. The biggest part of that has to do with some changes to our East Sumner neighborhood area, the area around the Sumner, the Gordon Family YMCA, making some changes there. And then also looking at our parking in downtown Sumner, making some changes to that. We did a parking survey kind of the community and how they use the parking downtown and what their thoughts were. We're going back out and doing a second survey that's going to focus on just the business community, really trying to see what the demand is for employees and owners of businesses for parking in that regard, and making some, more than likely making some changes to the hours in some of our lots, really to try to keep commuters from parking there all day long and making it more available for customers, employees, and business owners. On the development side, Western Peterbilt, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but they purchased property up near our 24th Street interchange, and they are moving forward through the permit process. Excited to have them in town on about 7 acres up there near Washington Tractor. And we have Triad Industries as well. They sell mainly excavators and things. They want to locate right on the corner of 136th and 24th Street. So that's another exciting development in the works. On the housing side, Richmond American is continuing to build out their 57 lot subdivision off of Parker Road. I just want to say generally permitting is not slowing down, just continues to be busy in the world of development. And the Red Apple Market property continues to be working through they're going to be submitting for permits in April. So we're excited about that. And on the permit center program side, in terms of our new software, NeoGov is what we call it. It's through Tyler Industries. We won't be actually getting that going until March 1st. It was delayed because Tyler actually had a data breach late last year, and they had to deal with that. So we are still looking at March 1st though, and that's going to be a real nice addition for folks who are running permits in Sumner to be able to have a lot more customer friendly interface on the internet for that. So that's kind of the high level things that we are working on, staying busy. And I'll turn it over to Tara. Thank you.
Great. I was curious, are you and Sean Bunny having a little beard growing contest?
It looks like I got some catching up to do.
Sean, good morning. Did you have anything to add? I know you keep yourself deep in the weeds with all of this.
No, just keeping my ear to the ground. Is Chris Gildon still on? I was curious what committees he got. No, yeah, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, so human services, housing, ways and means, and rules.
Wish you were on transportation, but those are good committees. Thank you. That's all I've got. So thank you for letting me be included today.
Absolutely. No, great to see all of you. Also, congratulations to Aaron Hallenberg. I know you get to follow Councilman Zeiger into council. So congratulations. Happy to continue to work with you as well. And my last bit of work or committee assignments that we have here for ourselves is our legislative committee. And really, the GAC is where we go to get most of this information, and your input is always valuable. And as I said earlier, all of the information that Carolyn Logue produces for us on Fridays will be turned around and pushed back out to you. But we do need a select few that just get a little closer to the issues, so that if there is a call to action where we need testimony and or letters to our representatives to go out, and really this smaller group also just needs to look at, you know, the South Sound Chamber of Commerce Legislative Coalition does a great job of kind of grabbing onto the most important things for our region. But here in Puyallup and Sumner, we have very specific issues as well. And so I just need a couple of other volunteers that wouldn't mind adding their input to what needs to maybe rise to the surface, and when it's go time, show time, to be able to get behind an effort. Right now, Kurt Jimistat has agreed to be on that committee, and I would just love, I'm assuming Luke Corum would be interested in participating again. How do you like how I did that, Luke? But if there's a couple of others that can kind of help us digest some of the information and just really help see what we need to focus in on. Again, Carolyn does the hard legwork for us. She puts all of it out there, and we just really need to look at it and see what's most important to us, that we really, you know, can put an effort behind. So any other takers for that committee?
Tara.
Sean.
I would be willing to weigh in on that one.
I would
with
love
the likes of Kurt and Luke, sounds like a good team to be part of.
I would love that. And again, it's probably a virtual thing for a while, and just maybe a recap after each of the Friday sessions. Anyway, I appreciate that. So that should give us a great start. Anyone else interested, shoot me an email and we'll get you included. So with that, great to see all of you. Happy New Year. I know we all kept swinging. I did lots of shopping, as did our chamber staff, with small businesses, with our Mingle Jingle Marketplace. We sold over 75 gift baskets with some of the small businesses on Main Street in Sumner and in Puyallup. So that was a lot of fun, and thank all of you for your efforts there. Anything anyone else like to add before we sign off? All right, until next month, stay safe and healthy, and let's make this a prosperous year. Good rebound year for us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.